You're watching Pyro Media Network.
I gotta tell you something I could do. I could be running around chasing you, but I won't. Cause I got better things to do. Rather spend my precious time chasing somebody who loves me too. If I got $1 for every time you slam the door, I would be the richest girl alive, life. If you hadn't run away every time I asked you stay, you would sleep right next to me tonight. But you didn't know me, all you wanted was a game to play, and you couldn't handle that I had my ways. Around your mind tricks and your side chicks, I'm a winner, babe. But you didn't
Thank you for
know
tuning in.
this, it's a
If this is your
part
first time
of
joining
the
us,
game.
welcome. We hope your experience is fruitful. Please feel free to visit our website to find out how you can join our growing family. While we are loading your experience, please do us a quick favor and hit that like button from whichever platform you're watching or listening on. Also, share so others may enjoy as well. And we hope you would consider hitting that subscribe or follow button so you can check out more of our amazing content. Alright, let's start the show.
Vick, Victorious! Vick, Victorious!
Hey. Happy Friday, Junior. Oh my gosh, this time of the week is the best because Friday is coming, the weekend is coming. I was just telling the producer, I have nothing. I checked my calendar before I came on. I'm like, I have nothing to do this weekend. I'm going to sleep in. I am not going to do anything. And I'm going to be happy about it because I don't know. I think y'all know I have so much stuff happening. I'm on boards. I'm doing this. I'm over here. I'm doing that. I'm writing this chapter. I'm doing it. I've been doing so much. And so whenever there's a time where there's nothing happening, I love it because I can sleep and me and Mew the cat can watch TV all day. We don't do nothing. Anyway, happy Friday, Junior. Welcome to this week's episode of, I was going to say Nicole D. Vick Live Chat. My brain went way back. Whoop. Dr. VICKtorious, where every week we explore the intersections of social justice, wellness, and what it means to show up fully human, especially from a Black perspective, because I'm Black American. I am your host, Dr. Nicole D. Vick. Do y'all have you ever wondered, maybe you don't care, but somebody I have to always tell people the reason why I am very clear of Nicole D. Vick is because one time I Googled Nicole Vick and there's actually at least one other Nicole Vick in the Midwest. And turns out she actually has her doctorate, her EDD, her doctorate in education. And so I'm like, well, I gotta make sure which Nicole we talking about, right? So I always put Nicole D. Vick. And plus I actually like my middle name. It's really cool. So hey, Cyrus. Hey. Good to see you here. What's going on here? It's still hot. Summer is just doing its thing. We have about a month or so left of summer. The start of fall is around my birthday, usually September 22nd. So we got some time to get some things in. I got some concerts coming up. I'm going to see Jill Scott in August. I'm going to see Masego in September. Trying to enjoy summer. This is my first summer really like being able to do things and move around, which kind of dovetails nicely with the conversation we're going to have today. What else? Oh, my nails. For the longest, I had to kind of just be incognito, wear them, plain because I had only 8 nails, but now I'm up to 9. So I got one more. I got to grow it back out and then I can be back to myself. I had to change the shape and everything. Just a recap on that because I don't know if y'all knew that. I had a nail issue but I fixed it and we're okay. We're in recovery. So yeah. All right, y'all. And yes, Masego is fire. This new album, Fix Your Face, love it. I don't even think there's one song that I don't like on the whole album. My favorite one is Sounds Like. I love it because it's very sort of introspective, and then he's kind of recapping his life up until now. And so I love that song. Of course, I love Breathe. I Know You. There's a lot of songs on this album, so I'm really excited to see him. This will be my second time seeing him in concert, and I think I've seen Jill Scott before back in the day at the House of Blues, like back. So I have a nice summer planned, and I'm excited. And then, of course, my birthday, I'll be 48. What is going on? What is happening? And I'm like, how am I getting to 50 I don't understand. Anyway, let's get to the scroll stroll before we get into the topic for this evening. Got some good things. Thank you, Cyrus. I've been trying to be cute. So this scroll stroll is a good one this week. You know, we got some things. Like the first one is about these do-rags and the bonnets. Now, I don't know if y'all know what's going on, but I guess Tuskegee University put out a dress code type situation, and they banned do-rags, bonnets, and I think pajamas. And so, and of course, everybody has something to say. I have my opinions, and they will probably come through as we talk about it. Demetria Lucas talked about it, and she kind of cited an irony that there was someone with a bright bonnets and do-rags are ghetto and shouldn't be worn in public. And Demetria said, like, I would have said, like, well, some people think your blue hair is ghetto. Like, so maybe you shouldn't wear that in public, right? Like I guess people are picking and choosing sort of what is acceptable and what's not, and I think, to me, here's what I'll say. To me, the comparison of do-rags and bonnets to ghetto and dirty personal thing. Some people do it for various reasons. I don't really care. And I think most people know not to wear a do-rag to the corporate office, right? I think we know that, right? I think most people had that much sense. We're talking about college students. Oh, am I frozen? Hello? Am I still there? Am I still here? Do you see me? Am I here? Somebody let me know. Oh, I froze. See, them do-rags and them bonnets. The conversation froze. It just shut me out. Anyway, I think most people know better, right? But to me, on the college campus, these are young adults. They are, learning how to express themselves and be themselves. I feel like you could just leave them alone. I don't think it's a big deal. I just feel like it's not a big deal. But this is an interesting commentary. Then there was another one by I think it's Trip Fontaine, was like, y'all sitting here worried about having this argument about these do-rags and bonnets when, listen, we got to think about these concepts like respectability politics. We got to talk about white supremacy culture. Like we are in a climate now where hundreds of thousands of Black people lost their jobs. And they probably were dressed in suits and ties and dressed well. So oftentimes presentation literally has nothing to do with how people see you and respect you. I think I even go back to the conversation I had on LinkedIn, which actually went, I'm gonna call it viral. I got like 12,000 views on that LinkedIn post I made on Monday, because it was like, this man thought he had to change himself to be accepted. And he actually said, I changed myself to be accepted. Ryan Clark, I'm talking about, if I didn't say his name. And he still got fired, and he feels like, oh my goodness, what happened? And so a lot of us as Black people, we have to struggle with, well, how do we present ourselves? If we present ourselves a certain way, are we seen as more or less than? It's a really interesting thing, and I'm interested in having this conversation. And I don't think, at least from my perspective, anybody's arguing that people are going to now start wearing bonnets and do-rags to work. I don't think that's the argument. I think what I saw was people were equating do-rags and bonnets with dirty and nasty. And that's where I was like, see, this is where we're going to the wrong, what is happening here? So interesting conversation. We tend to always have this conversation every so often. I think Monique had an issue with bonnets some time ago and it became a thing. So it's really interesting why we can't come to a decision on this thing and leave it alone. Thank you, Cyrus. I'm like, somebody listen to me. Like, on the one hand, I don't care. Like, my brain and my intelligence does not go away when I put a bonnet on. It doesn't, oh, she dumb now because she got a bonnet on. No, I just don't want you to see my hair because maybe it's under construction or I didn't feel like doing it or, whatever. Right. So I hope we get to the bottom of it at some point in our culture because I'm tired of hearing about it. But I don't think it's a big deal. If you in college and you got something happening and you got your hair in rollers and you need to do this because of something happening and you got the bonnet on, I don't care, right? That's fine. It's fine. But some people think differently and that's okay as well. You don't have to wear the bonnet. We're going to move on from this because I can keep going around and around in the bin. All right. What's the next scroll through? This one was funny to me. It's like a long story. I gotta find it now because I'm opening it up on both of my computer screens here. Hold on, y'all. It's funny because to me is a funny work story. So I'm gonna read it to you because I know this is a lot on the screen. There's a new guy at work and he's been here maybe 2 weeks and we're in a meeting and my boss is talking about quarterly goals or whatever. And she goes, we really need to circle back to customer retention. And this guy raises his hand and goes, I have a question. And my boss is like, yes. And he goes, why do you always say circle back? And the whole room goes quiet. And my boss is like, what? And he goes, you say it like every meeting. Is there a reason we're going in circles? Why don't we just go forward? Hilarious. And someone coughs and he's still going. Like I've been keeping track. You said it 18 times in 2 weeks. And my boss just stares at him and goes, have you never worked in an office before? And he goes, I have, but nobody says circle back this much. It feels aggressive. And I swear my boss aged 5 years and she goes, it's just a phrase. And he goes, okay, but like why circles? And she just moved on with the meeting. He got let go during his probation period today. And I heard him ask HR if it was because of the circle thing. It's so funny because office culture is like that. We latch on to a phrase, circle back, close the loop. There's some other ones too, woo, woo. And I think we just kind of accept it for what it is. But if you really think about it, like, what that mean? What we circling for? Why we ain't going forward? Why we ain't solving the thing? Why are we coming back around to it? Why we just can't forward, not circle around, come through. I'm gonna send this. I'm gonna stick this in the chat room at work and see if people laugh at it because it really, to me, is hilarious. But it's just also a reminder that like some of the phrases we use in the workspace, like that don't really make no sense. We just gonna keep circling. Can we solve it and move on from it? Why we gonna circle back to it? I don't want to circle back. I want to just deal with it and move on. Hilarious. I was cackling, laughing my head off. All right, and the last one. Oh, yes, let's rally around this. I always hear a lot about close the loop, circle the thing, or whatever it is. But this last one to me is, I'm like, wow. And this is from Reparations Club. If you know who Reparations Club is, they are a bookstore here in South Los Angeles on Jefferson, just west of Crenshaw. Been there for at least one book signing. The book signing of Black Single Mother, that book that I by Jamila, I forgot her last name, but that was a great event. So I just saw this and was like, wow. The quickest way to find out whether someone values you or just your usefulness to them, be a Black woman and try saying no. And I'm like, ooh, because you know what? When you have to tell somebody no, that a lot of times that's how you find out how that person really feels about you. Because if they get angry at your no, and instead of saying like, oh, that's okay, I understand, if they get angry, that says a lot. And also for some reason, people are very hard on Black women. And so if a Black woman says no, or if a Black woman does something that it doesn't agree with what you want, and they, you tend to get angry. And so, you can really test out like, ooh, do you actually value me or you value what I can give you? Really interesting food for thought, and something to really think about. If someone can't take your no and be like, oh, okay, I understand, and then they get angry, oh, that says a lot about them and sort of how they view you. Something to take to heart. Maybe it's not a complete, I'm eliminating them from my life, but maybe it's like, let me remember, keep that in mind. Because last time when I said this, you had a real bad reaction. So now I understand my place in your life. I need to make some changes. So just something to think about. And I thought that was really, like, wow, something to really think about and keep in mind. All right. All right. That's it for the Scroll Stroll this week. We're going to go to commercial and come back and talk about Disability Pride Month. And yeah, see you in a bit.
Hey, it's Pastor Kim from It's Just Kim Live Show, and you're watching Pyro Media Network.
The news is divided. Ground News puts it back together, with coverage from thousands of outlets around the world in one place. So you can spot sensational reporting, no matter what side of the political spectrum you're on. Beside every headline, you'll see who owns the source, how reliable it is, and if they have a political bias. Multiple perspectives side by side, giving you a well-rounded view of today's biggest stories. Visit ground.news to learn more.
This is Tammy from Tammy's Take, and you're watching Pyro Media Network.
And we are back. All right, y'all, let's just jump into it. A little over 2 years ago, it was June 8th, 2024. I broke my right ankle in 3 places, child. 3, trimalleolar fracture. I won't go into detail. I have done an episode or 2 probably about the whole ordeal, so we ain't going back down that road. If you want to know, that you just kind of scroll back and you'll see it. At the time, okay, it's broken. Oh, I assumed I'd recover, do physical therapy, and eventually get back to quote unquote normal. Of course, the bone has healed. The bone healed well before the mobility came back to 100%. But the reality is my ankle is not the same as it was before I broke it. And I honestly, somebody asked me that. I said, I don't think it will ever be 100%. It will not. I don't think it will. It still feels weird. It still takes a moment to, like, if I'm sitting down watching TV and I decide to get up, I kind of have to wait, like stand up and kind of like stand for a second and let it kind of warm up, and then I can move. If the weather is funky, ankle is mad and it's gonna freeze up. It's gonna do all kind of things. I'm having issues now. It's my right ankle that broke, but my left Achilles is hurting. And what I found out is because my right ankle and foot, is still not strong, like my calf muscle is not strong, my left side is still compensating. And that's why my Achilles is bothering me. So like there's still stuff happening, even though I can now drive around, I can walk around, I can do 2 miles of walking at a time. I can do a lot more, but I still have an impairment. So I am still disabled, right? I was having this conversation with myself, like, there's sometimes I fill out job applications and they ask for disability status, and I'm like, but I can move around, I can drive, I can walk, I can go to the grocery store, I can do things, but it's my ankle is not 100%. So am I disabled or not? And I'm like, I am a person with a disability. I didn't lose my intelligence, I didn't lose my career, I didn't lose my purpose in life, but I did lose something I'd always taken for granted, the ability to move through the world without thinking about it, right? You move around, you don't think about it, you go here, go there, you walk around, you take a shower, you take those things for granted, right? So this month is Disability Pride Month. It's actually the end of Disability Pride Month. Tomorrow would be the last day. And I realized that before my injury, I appreciated accessibility. And then after my injury, I finally understood it. And I think, and I'll explain what I'm saying by that. So I grew up with an aunt. My mother's older sister was a person with a disability. I guess it's not important to really talk about what that disability is. That's her story to tell. And she has told it. She's been very vocal about it. But along with that, I grew up exposed to her being an activist. I grew up exposed to seeing her on commissions, city commission on disability, county commission on disability, chairing those commissions, right? Being very much an advocate, and being very sort of supportive of people in her circle who also had disabilities. So it wasn't foreign to me. It wasn't like, oh my gosh, I never knew about this. No, I grew up. It was very much sort of exposed to and had an understanding of it. But it's one thing to understand it, and it's another thing to actually understand it because it's your life and you are experiencing it firsthand. And so woo, very interesting. And we'll talk about it, like I said, not in detail about what happened to my ankle, but more so just some things that I think are important for people to understand, because I see stuff on social media a lot. I follow accounts of people with disabilities, and people still do things like park in the handicap space without a placard, or park in the part that has the hash marks across it. And then people that need a ramp to get in and out of their car can't get in and out of their cars. Like, I see these kinds of things on my social media feeds because I actually follow people that have disability and listen to their lived experience. So, quick question for all of you. I know it's rhetorical because you ain't in the room with me. Have you ever wondered why Disability Pride Month is in July? Most people know about Black History Month or Pride Month being in June, but often Disability Pride Month doesn't get the same attention. And so I'll tell you the answer. Disability Pride Month is observed every July because the Americans with Disabilities Act was signed into law on July 26, 1990. Now, I am Gen X / I'm a young Gen X, old millennial technically. And I'm like, I guess. In 1990 to me does not sound like a long time ago. I guess it was because I was in elementary school. I was probably like in 5th or 6th grade in 1990. But at the same time, that doesn't sound like a long time ago. And I'm like, wait, it took that long? Like, what? And so it's one of the most significant civil rights laws in U.S. history. Its purpose is to prohibit discrimination against people with disabilities in many areas of public life, including employment, state and local government services, meaning if I have a disability and I walk into a county building or a city building, that building should be accessible. And I should be able to access services in a way that is that takes into account my disability. Public transportation, right? If any of you ride a bus or a train, most of the time the bus has a ramp, for example. Public accommodations like restaurants, hotels, stores, theaters, telecommunications, and many public and private spaces. And I want to say something really quick. And I'm going to apologize in advance because my disability is a physical disability. I recognize I may be not talking about the full range of types of disabilities that people could have, because it's more than just I broke my ankle, I broke my leg, I use a wheelchair. There are people with intellectual and developmental disabilities. There are a whole gamut of types of disability. So I'm apologizing if I lean toward physical because mine is a physical disability, but just to be aware, there are many more types of disability than just physical. They're functional. Does this disability impact you being able to complete activities of daily living? Like, there's all sorts of types of disabilities. Before the Americans with Disabilities Act, many barriers that we now recognize as discriminatory were like normal, like, well, I mean, oh, well, there's no ramp to get into this building. And it's like, no. The Americans with Disability Act challenged that by saying disability rights are civil rights, right? Disability advocacy is a social justice movement, right? And so I think people confuse the ADA with like special treatment. It's like, oh, you're giving people extra. And it's like, no, it's about equal opportunity to participate. I have had the privilege of working directly with people with disabilities and being trained and receiving training on these types of things. And there was something that someone said some time ago that said, oftentimes it's not your disability that makes things inaccessible, it's the environment that makes things inaccessible. And one simple example is a parking space. Maybe you work at a job where there is parking for people with disabilities on the first floor, but because you come into the office later in the morning, all those spaces are taken, and you're like, well, I actually need to be on the first floor so I can get out of my car and walk straight into the building. There's no elevator or anything. I can't walk down the stairs. That environment has caused the barrier. I can get into the building if I park on the first floor. So you understand how your environment can actually be the barrier as opposed to the disability being the barrier, right? It's so interesting. And laws like the Americans with Disability Act weren't designed to give people with disabilities an advantage. It was designed to remove unnecessary barriers so people have the opportunity to participate. That's the whole point. People have the opportunity to participate. And so you might be wondering, well, why Pride? You know, we already have a Pride Month in June. So why are we calling this Disability Pride Month? And someone might be saying, well, why would you be proud of having a disability? And it's, you know, let's clarify what pride means in this context. It's not about celebrating pain, illness, injury, or hardship. It's about rejecting shame. Think about it. Prior to the Americans with Disabilities Act, or, you know, back in the back days, right? People with disabilities stayed in the house. You know, society was like, you stay over there, you know, and so there was some level of shame with having a disability. And so Disability Pride Month is like, no. We are still people. We have feelings. We are whole humans having a human experience. There is nothing to be ashamed of. Like, this is what it is. And we also want to participate in society with everybody else. We just need accommodations so that we have the same opportunity to participate. We are sexual beings. That comes up to people infantilize people with disabilities. Like, no, we grown. Like, I have, you know, partners, and, you know, so it's I love being exposed to the experiences of other people with disabilities that have social media accounts that really take time to share their experiences with us. I just watched a video. I hope you all follow Blair Imani on Instagram. She did a video on non-apparent disabilities, right? Where sometimes someone has a disability and you can't tell. It's really none of your business, honestly, but it's not like me with a cast on or a boot on, or someone with glasses on, and you can see that they have a visual impairment in some way. There's lots of people who have other types of disabilities that you can't see. And often what happens with them is they have to justify why they have a handicap placard, or they have to justify why they need an accommodation. Oh, well, you don't look sick. That doesn't mean I'm not. You just can't see it. So that's another aspect of disability that you need to be aware of. And it's never, ever polite. Never, just a food for thought to ask somebody how they became disabled or what their disability is. It is never appropriate. Allow that person, if they want to tell you, to tell you. So, you know, I work in a public health kind of realm, right? That's my level of expertise. I thought a lot about the conditions that allow people to thrive. Disability reminds us that health isn't only about our bodies. It's also about whether our communities, our policies, our workplaces are designed so everyone can participate, right? And, you know, of course, I knew before I broke my ankle, the Americans with Disability Act existed. I knew that. I mentioned it, my auntie. But there's a difference between supporting accessibility in theory and depending on it in practice. And I think that's where I was like, whoa, I started to see the disconnect, right? Yes, this building, of course, is designed in a way because there's laws that say that this has to have a ramp and yes, but me not being able to open the bathroom door because it's heavy and it's one of those doors that self closes, not a door like in a home where you open it, it stays open. Those doors you push open and it swings back, and you not being strong enough to catch that swing back and being scared the door gonna knock you down because you trying to get in with your walker, like that kind of stuff. Again, yes, in theory, I get it, but literally living it, like I can't get in this door. I need to go to the bathroom, but the doors, can somebody come open the door? Or having to have a coworker valet park my car because I get there and there's no parking on the first floor because all the handicap spaces are gone by the time I get in, but I still need to get inside and I can't navigate stairs. So like, again, it's one thing to understand it and it's another thing to live it. And when I suddenly couldn't navigate the world the way I always had, I realized just how many things I had taken for granted. Things like, how am I going to make sure the trash gets out every week because I can't go outside. I have stairs and then my driveway is on an incline. Like I can't drive, but the car, we all know this, you got to start the car and let it run, because if you don't, your battery's going to die and other things are going to happen. You need somebody to drive it around the block a couple times, put it back, like those kinds of things. How am I get to my doctor's appointments? And if you remember, John and the host of my other friends were a part of the reason why I was able to even get to the doctor to get help. So it was really crazy. And another thing I want to talk to you guys about, when we think about social justice and civil rights movements like the Americans with Disabilities Act, we have to remember those things don't happen overnight. It's not like, oh, somebody said, oh, we should do this, and then tomorrow it happens. Like decades of organizing, advocacy by disabled activists who fought for equal access and civil rights. Like that is so important, and that oftentimes things that make sense and we take for granted now, like curb cuts on sidewalks, when you get to the corner of a sidewalk and it has that little ramp there, that's years and years of like, hey, people use wheelchairs and walkers and they need to be able to walk from the curb and get off of it without falling or feeling unstable and unsafe. And the crazy thing is, once they started putting those curb cuts in, oh, guess who else benefited? Moms or parents with babies and strollers. Wow. Seniors, people that had vision impairment that needed to be able to walk and not have to worry about kind of stepping off that curb. Like, it's a concept called universal design. If we create things and take it into consideration every type of ability, things get easier for everybody. And it's like, it's an amazing thing to think about, but it's like we, for some reason, don't do things that way. And it's so interesting to think about. Like my whole perspective on people with disabilities changed once I became disabled. Like one thing that I came to appreciate was the value of a physical therapist, right? I think physical therapy, prior to this, of course, I understood why it was important. But to sit and think about the level of skill that my physical therapist, and mind you, I still go to physical therapy still, is amazing. Like she took me from not walking to walking. I can walk 2 miles at a time. And even just the progression of how fast I can walk now compared to when I started. How to strengthen my calf muscles, because once you stop moving on one side of your body, that whole side, your muscle tone is compromised and you have to regain all that strength back. And it's been crazy or interesting to me to note my strength, the change in strength, like having the want and desire to walk and walk faster or be stronger. But your body is like, baby, we can't do that yet. What you doing? And it's nothing you can do about that. Like, You just can't do it. And then being able to figure out or do things to help yourself get stronger. Heels. I did a post on LinkedIn about that. I said, you see these heels? Will never touch my feet again. I can guarantee you that. That's gone. Everything is sneakers, specifically New Balance. Everything. Maybe I'll be able to wear a flat, but I'm a fan of orthopedic shoes, and we thought orthopedic shoes was for grandmas. No. If your ankles is crazy and doing something that ain't, or fragile, you got to get you some orthopedic shoes, get you some insoles and go about your business. And that it is what it is. Things I notice now, uneven sidewalks, stairs. I noticed that, these stairs are easier to walk on because the rise is lower. Oh, wow, I can walk these stairs. I also notice I can go upstairs easier than I can go downstairs. Downstairs is harder on my knees. Like inclines, if it's too steep, I can walk down it fine. Up, it hurts my affected ankle. Walking through airports versus using the wheelchair service. Like there are things that I took for granted. And then it's like, wait, I need to go on this flight. I can't walk. Oh, I can request a wheelchair and somebody will come get me and take me right to my gate, right? These things are so important. I remember when I was presenting in 2025, I'm like, okay, do I stand up? Do I sit down? Like, I think I'm gonna need to sit down. Like, there's just so many things that don't enter your mind, I think, that are so important to consider, and that people that are not disabled, and let me talk about that for a second, should always try to consider about other people. Let me go back to this. There is I've had the pleasure and just been so grateful for people with disabilities educating me on things. There's this idea that people with disabilities are a distinct community. They're over there, right? The people with disabilities are over there, and the non-disabled, quote unquote, normal people are over here. The argument that I have heard is we are all temporarily, well, not all of us, but most of us are temporarily abled, because at some point in our life, something will happen. Your vision, your hearing, your mobility, anything can happen to change that, any of those things at any time. You can get sick. You can just, by aging, your sight changes, your hearing may change. And so we should stop treating it as those people over there and versus the rest of us, and start to understand they are actually all part of our community, and that there are probably more people with disabilities in our communities than we think. The numbers are probably way higher than we think when we start to think about the different types of disability. Stuff like long COVID, there's impacts on that with your breathing and how you can navigate things. So something else I've also learned. Before, I thought accessibility was about ramps, and now I think it's really about participation. How do we work together to make life better for everyone, regardless of their ability? I've already talked about non-apparent disabilities. Again, it's just something I feel like you should all be aware of and be reminded of, because it's important. And lastly, I'll say before we go to commercial, like, again, this concept of universal design, how do we create communities and infrastructure so that everybody has access? I hate when I see buildings that are built like with stairs only, and then, now I got to put a ramp. Like, why didn't anybody consider the fact that, for example, someone may need a ramp? Or why isn't this, created for people that are neurodivergent or have intellectual disabilities or developmental disabilities? Like, why aren't we creating environments for people so that everyone can access them? Because ultimately, if you create universal design, things with the universal design perspective, everyone benefits. So, and I already talked about curb cuts and how important they are. Here's another one, and then we'll go to break. Closed captions. Do you know how important closed captions are? First of all, for people that need to be able to read what's happening, but we all benefited from it now because we be at work with the phone volume down, but we can now watch the video. You see how closed captions is actually a benefit to all of us when you caption your videos and things. So it's an interesting thing. It's not just for one population. It actually has benefits to everyone. Sometimes you need the words even if you can't hear, you still need the words to follow along. Like, oh, okay, I understand. Okay, I understand what's happening, right? So that's two examples: curb cuts and closed captioning. All right, let's go to break and I'll close out and I'll see you next week. I can't believe I done talked this whole time. Child, let's go to break.
Hey, how y'all doing? Real quick, this is Daryl Walter, host of the Daryl Walter Show. I know. And you are watching Pyro Media Network.
In closing, heading to the doctor's notes section, if you had asked me 3 years ago whether disability was part of my identity, I would have said no. But today, of course, my answer is different, not because I'm less capable, but because my understanding has grown. And I think that's really important for folks to really have a mindset of understanding, of empathy, of growth, and always be seeking to understand. And I'll also say, one of the best ways to do that, we have access, we got a whole computer in our hands. Get on social media, follow accounts of people with disabilities so you can understand their experiences. I just watched a mom talk about her two daughters, both born deaf, and their cochlear implants and how her experience with her children, working with them through their hearing loss or their deafness. But you have to follow those types of accounts to understand what it means to have a disability, what it means to navigate the world. So I think you should always have a mindset of openness and of learning and understanding. Disability didn't make me weaker. I mean, physically it did. My ankle was woo. It was, yeah, buddy, woo. But it made me notice things I had never been forced before. And it gave me a certain level of understanding that I didn't have before. And I will say also this before we go. I actually dislike when people were like, well, I didn't know until it affected me. Like, you should have a level of understanding and empathy and just openness. And yes, but I also do think that sometimes you got to go through it to really get it. So there's a balance. And in my case, I think it definitely made me a better advocate. I'll say that. And the goal shouldn't be asking people with disabilities to overcome barriers. The goal should be creating communities where fewer barriers exist in the first place. Full stop. All right, y'all. Thank you so much. Again, my ask of you, follow folks on social media that have disabilities that are open into educating and sharing information so you can understand. Think about it. Don't just, oh yeah, no, wait. Hey, is this accessible? Think about it at work. Think about it in your home, all those things. And just remember, you are temporarily able. I think that's the last thing to remember, baby. If you are able-bodied, that is a temporary thing, okay? All right, y'all, thank you for watching. As always, you can follow me on social media. I have my LinkedIn been popping. Like I said, Monday's post went, and I was like, whoa. Follow me on LinkedIn because I'll be talking about stuff. Yes. I also have an Instagram. Dr. VICKtorious is my Instagram, which is more professional and framed around the podcast and other things. And then Nicole D. Vick is my other Instagram, which is more personal. I have a beautiful website, www.nicoledvick.com. And all sorts of things are there. My books are there. And all sorts of things. So look there for my books. I have 3 of them: Pushing Through, Finding the Light in Every Lesson, Push Through, 52 Weeks of Life of Times, and Triumph in the Trenches, which is a book that helps. It's like the Green Book, but for Black working people, helping them navigate through the workspace. Me and 20 plus other authors are in this book. And I think it's really timely, especially what happened to Mr. Clark at ESPN and, the 300,000 Black women that lost their jobs. Very timely book, very timely body of work. So, all right, y'all, I will see you next week. You all take care of yourselves, okay? Love on yourself and your peoples, and I'll see you next week. Bye.
Thank you for watching Pyro Media Network. For more information, please visit pyromedianetwork.com.